I'm Amanda, and I'm a quantum healer and past life regressionist. I offer both in-person sessions using QHHT, which is the method developed by the incredible Dolores Cannon, and I also offer virtual quantum healing. Both types of sessions that I offer use essentially the same format, using a form of hypnosis to access past life regression and connection to the higher self. The higher self is basically you, but without the restrictions and amnesia and barriers of your physical body, your physical lifetime on Earth. So your higher self knows everything that you've gone through in this lifetime and in your past lives, and they have all the answers to your big life questions, why you decided to go through what you're going through in this life. In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between in-person QHHT sessions and virtual quantum healing. We're also going to cover what actually happens in a session, what you can expect, and what to not expect in a session. So first things first, what's the difference between virtual and in-person quantum healing? The types of sessions that I facilitate are essentially the same. They follow the same format. We use the same type of induction. We use the same format for past life regression and connection to the higher self. Truly, the only difference is that one type of session is virtual and one type is in person. It's been proven through thousands of sessions and thousands of virtual quantum healings, as well as virtual energy work in other modalities like Reiki and Akashic reading and animal communication. All of these different energetic modalities have proven to us over time that this type of energy work is not in any way restricted by this dimension of space. So whether we're in a real room together or a virtual room, we are actually able to achieve the exact same results. We're able to do the exact same thing. What I always tell clients is that it's really up to your personal preference. Make your choice based on what feels most comfortable and right for you. If you feel like you really want to be in the room with your practitioner, if you really want to be in the room with me, then QHHT is the way to go. But if you would like to have a session from the comfort of your own home and you'd rather not have a commute, then virtual quantum healing is a completely great way to go. Okay, now let's talk about what actually happens in a session. First of all, I want you to completely erase any expectation or preconceived ideas that you might have about what hypnosis is like. Anything that you've seen in movies or experienced in high school or, back in your childhood, just erase all of those ideas and expectations, because I can guarantee you that this type of technique is going to be completely different. Not only is it a completely unique method and induction style, but I can also guarantee you that unless you've had a quantum healing or QHHT session in the past few months, you have likely changed a lot. You've evolved a lot since your last time experiencing anything like this. Even over a year, you have likely changed. Your consciousness has shifted, and the experience is going to feel different. It's going to be different. So just erase any expectations that you have around what it's going to be like, because it is going to be different. I will say a lot of people experience and are able to maintain a high level of awareness when they're in that hypnotic state, when they're in that somnambulistic state. And this is a phenomenon that has been developing over the last few years, over the last decade or so. As consciousness has been shifting and us humans have been evolving in our consciousness, we have been able to maintain more and more awareness when we're in that somnambulistic state. It's not something that we were capable of before. And as a result, we are able to remember a lot about what happens during our sessions. But I want to caution you in understanding that when you're aware of what's happening during the session, it doesn't mean that you're awake. Awakeness and awareness are different things. They can be very close together, but when you're in that somnambulistic state, just because you're aware does not mean that you are awake. It doesn't mean that you are not in a deeply relaxed state of trance. I also want to say that these sessions are completely confidential. It's really important to remember that. It's very important for you to be comfortable telling your practitioner or telling me everything that I need to know about you so that I can direct the session in the way that works the best for you. So just remember, these sessions are totally confidential. Your information is definitely not being shared publicly anywhere, and they will remain between you and me or you and your practitioner. So let's talk a little bit about what the format of the session is. When you first enter the session, we're just going to take our time, and I'm going to really make sure that I get to know you. So we're going to spend a while talking. And just remember, this is a really important part of the session. It's really important for me to understand everything about you so that I can best represent you when I'm asking your questions for you, and so that I can really deeply understand why it is that you have the questions that you have. And remember, all of the time that we have together is yours. This is why sessions don't actually have a hard cutoff. This is the way that Dolores designed her sessions as well. I say that they typically last 5 to 6 hours. That's generally, where they land, but sometimes they go longer. And I don't ever have a session scheduled after another session for that reason. It's because they might last longer. So just remember, all this time is yours. We're really going to take our time just talking. And usually by the time we're finished talking, we will have kind of covered all the questions that you came in with. So at that time, I will take your list of questions and make sure that, you either bring your questions on a physical sheet of paper. If your session is in person, I will need to be able to physically hold your questions, so either printed or handwritten out. Or if your session is virtual, then make sure that you've emailed them to me ahead of time so that I can look at them. So we'll review your questions and we'll just kind of make sure that we really covered everything. Then you'll get a chance to use the bathroom, and it's really important that you do, because during the hypnosis portion of the session, you're going to be so fully relaxed. We're going to want you to empty yourself out as much as possible beforehand. And keep in mind, if you do for some reason need to use the bathroom in the middle of the hypnosis portion of the session, that's totally fine. Many people have done it in the past, and you will be able to drift right back into the exact state of deeply relaxed trance that you were just in. So it's not going to be a problem, but we want to try our best to make sure that you're as comfortable as possible for the entire session. So you'll use the bathroom, and then we'll be ready for the real fun to begin. We will be getting into the quantum healing, past life regression, hypnosis portion of the session. So from there, I'm going to bring you into a very deeply relaxed state of trance. And it's going to be just a very gentle descent into a deeply relaxed state. So you're going to start from closing your eyes. We're going to do a little breathing, and then you're just going to go through this really gentle induction. And this is actually a very natural state for you to be in, because where we are going, this somnambulistic state, is actually the same place that you go through right before you fall asleep. So you know how no one can ever really remember that moment when you fall asleep? It's like you go from being aware to suddenly waking up, right? You don't remember that falling asleep moment. It's because you go through that exact same state of the brain. So as you can see, this is a very normal place for you to go through. You go through this state at least twice a day, right? As long as you slept that day, you go through it once as you fall asleep, and you go through it one more time as you wake up. So a lot of people ask, is it possible for me to be hypnotized? I'm really afraid that I can't be. And the truth is, anyone and everyone can be hypnotized. As long as you've ever slept before in your life, you have gone through that exact same state. The only thing is that some people don't realize that they're in that state because, like I said earlier, you may very well maintain a state of awareness, a state of consciousness while you are in that somnambulistic state. And as I said, this is becoming more and more common. I would say that about 98% of my clients experience a pretty high level of awareness when they're in that state. And just remember, this is actually a really good thing. It's really cool to be aware throughout the session so that you can experience your past life firsthand. You can remember the details of what happened to you. And when we get to the part where we connect with your higher self, you get to hear what your higher self sounds like. You get to see what it feels like to connect with them so that you know what it's like to tune into them in your waking day-to-day as well. So see it as being an incredible advantage if you are able to maintain awareness when you are in this deep somnambulistic state. That state of trance that we go into, if you've ever done any sort of YouTube meditations or, guided group meditations, typically those meditations will take you into a lighter state of trance. The state of trance that we will go into in a QHHT or virtual quantum healing session is going to be just a deeper version of that. So it's going to feel kind of similar to that, but you're going to sink even deeper in. Once we have you into that state, we will start and go through the past life regression. And for the rest of the session, you're going to be seeing things with your mind's eye. So that means you're going to be visualizing everything through your imagination. And it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be consciously making things up, definitely not, but images will just kind of pop into your imagination, pop into your mind for no apparent reason at all, aside from that's what your higher self has chosen to show you. And you're just going to tell me what you're seeing, and it's just going to go along like that. So it's the exact same imagination space that you use if you were to imagine what your childhood home looked like, right? You don't even need to close your eyes. You can actually just envision your childhood home, and it's right there in your imagination without you closing your eyelids. Be wary that you should not be trying to see things with your physical eyeballs against the back of your eyelids. I find that that is a common mistake that a lot of people make. Because, when we are asked to see things, we might think that we should be physically seeing things with our actual eyeballs. We're not seeing things with our eyeballs, we're seeing things with our mind's eye, using our imagination. When you start to visualize things with your imagination, it's very normal for the images to be blurry at first. This is a super common thing, and usually at this point, a lot of people worry or doubt what they're seeing because it's not very clear. But I guarantee you, the more you talk, the more you focus in on the details of what you're seeing, the more clear it becomes. So the best thing you can do is to just keep on talking, talk as much as you can, describe everything that you're seeing in as much detail as possible, because as you describe, the details will become more and more clear and more things will start to pop up, more information will start to come through. And this is really good both for you to ground yourself more deeply into the experience, and also for me so that I can better understand what it is that you're seeing and I can be a better guide for you through the session. It's also a huge benefit for when you're re-listening to the recording afterwards and you can kind of relive the experience. It's going to feel like, when you wake up, you're going to feel like you remember everything very clearly and you remember all the details, but it fades away like a dream. As you continue on in your life after the session ends, you're going to forget a lot of details, and you absolutely need to listen to that recording to go back through those details and get all of that really important information and insight. Once we've gone through our past life regression, we will connect with your higher self. When we get to that part, we're going to be asking all the questions that you brought in, and we're going to be looking to understand why it is that they showed you what they showed you in your past life. And at this point in the session, everything starts to become clear. It all starts to sort of make sense as to what the big lesson is supposed to be, what the big takeaways are supposed to be, because now we're connected to your higher self and we're able to ask them directly, what is the point of all of this? What's the meaning of all of this? So when you're connecting to your higher self, you're going to realize that their voice is very familiar to you. You're going to realize, and a lot of people go through this experience, that they've been talking to you all along, like in your life, your whole life, because they are that intuitive voice. They're that gut feeling that has been guiding you and following you your whole life. They're the ones that help you make decisions. They're the ones that sort of give you warning signals when you come across something that doesn't feel right. They're the ones that are always there for you. And when we go into a deep state of trance like we do through a quantum healing session, what we're really doing is tuning out all the static, tuning out all the noise, and getting straight to the source of our higher self. And we're able to hear them more clearly. But we're also able to realize that they're actually always there with us day to day. So one of the best things that comes out of a session is just learning how to trust that voice, learning that we actually have a lot of the answers within us all the time. We just have to tune into them. We just have to listen to them. And you're going to realize that you don't need to keep doubting yourself. You don't need to keep second guessing yourself. It's nice to get validation though. Like the session will give you a lot of validation, and a lot of times people will get new answers that they didn't have before, but you're also going to sort of learn how to find the answers for yourself moving forward. And that's incredibly empowering. So once we're finished asking your higher self all your questions, I will bring you back out very gently, and I will make sure that you are feeling well, that you're feeling great, and then we're going to talk about everything that you saw. We'll do a debrief. You can ask me any questions that you have. We'll kind of review all the answers that you got, everything that you saw, and I will make sure that you feel totally safe and comfortable to return to your normal day-to-day life. I'll always send you home with a recording. If your session is in person, I'll be able to transfer the recording to you right there, then and there. And if your session is virtual, I will email your recording to you. It's extremely, extremely important that you listen to that recording within 1 to 3 days after your session. That recording is actually the final part of your session. Think of it this way. Your session is not truly complete until you've listened to that recording, because a lot of details that happen in the session, you're already going to forget them the moment you leave the session. This is very normal because, like I said earlier, it fades away like a dream. And you have to think of that recording as a way of really like signing and sealing everything that came out of your session into reality. It's like our way of truly manifesting what happened. Because yes, it already happened, but your conscious mind is so powerful that if you don't reinforce the things that happened in the session, and if you don't remember what happened in the session, it is possible to sort of backslide, in your healing, or to backslide in your beliefs and things like that. So it is incredibly important that you listen to that recording at least one time, if not more. Okay, and I want to talk about some things to not expect. So what you should not be expecting in a session. First of all, don't expect any specific types of lives. I know that, what we see online, all the past life regressions that we see online tend to be very fantastical, fascinating lives, kings and queens or pharaohs in Egypt, that kind of thing, or Atlantis. And while those types of lifetimes we do get to see in these types of sessions, I also see just as many, if not more, very ordinary lifetimes. And honestly, whether you get a really fantastical alien lifetime or a totally ordinary lifetime doesn't really matter, because the lesson and the message in that lifetime is always going to be exactly what you need to see. It's going to be what's most relevant to you and what's going on in your life right now. So just be really open to whatever it is that's going to come through, and don't be married to one idea. I just don't want anyone to be disappointed, because I guarantee you the message and the story is going to be a lot more important than the nature of the lifetime. I also want to encourage you to wipe away anything that you've heard from your friends or family members, anyone that you know that's also had a session, or anything that you've seen from online similar sessions, QHHT or past life regressions and virtual quantum healing. Just wipe away any expectations from other people's experiences, because every single session is so incredibly different. There's no way to really predict what your session is going to be like. The way that you feel in that state of trance might be different. The way that your higher self comes through might be different. The way that you move through the past life regression might be different. So just wipe away any of those expectations, because you're going to get an incredibly unique experience and it's going to be unlike anyone else's. And finally, I want to wipe away this very common misconception that you are not having to do any work at all when you do this kind of session. It's true that I am your guide, I'm helping to facilitate the experience, and I'm definitely, doing some of the work, maybe 10-20% of the work I'm doing. But when we do this type of work, we're actually combining energies. We're doing the work in partnership. And really, what you get out of the experience is completely up to you. It really depends on how invested you are in it, how much energy you put into processing it afterwards, how much energy you put into preparing for it beforehand, whether or not you listen to the recording, how you put all the lessons from your session into action. These are all really important key steps of the healing process and of being able to truly integrate the magic of the session into your life. A lot of people come into these types of experiences hoping that they can just be fully healed by coming into one session and leaving. And if you really think about it, one of the big reasons why we encounter big life challenges or really difficult lessons and circumstances is because there's something really important that we need to learn from those situations, right? There's some really important way that we need to shift ourselves. And part of what we learn from those experiences is actually going through that process of healing, going through that process of change and shift. It's up to us to do it ourselves. So a lot of times, our higher selves will want us to experience that process. And so that's why it's so important for us to remain open-minded to the idea that maybe not all of the healing, maybe not everything will happen just within the one container of our quantum healing session, but we need to realize that the work continues afterwards, that it's up to us to continue to integrate and process and really cement all of the things that came out of the session into our reality, into our lives moving forward. And so remember, whether or not you are able to embody and align yourself to the highest vibration version of yourself is ultimately completely up to you. So that's it for this video. I hope that you found this information helpful and insightful, and I hope that you're looking forward to having an incredible QHHT or virtual quantum healing session.